Hello everyone, and welcome to this review. This is a deadly serious review, and if you can't tell by the title, that means that this review is deadly serious. I'm not joking, it's dead serious. I mean every single word of what I'm about to say here, because, you know, that's just my style. Being deadly serious is my style. See, even if I mess up words, I just continue because that's how serious I am. Anyway, today we're going to talk about obviously the best game of all time ever, The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. I mean, of course it's the best game of all time, because if it wasn't the best game of all time, then why would it have of time in the title? Duh, Ocarina of Time, best game of all time. Don't you see the connection there? The obvious connection? Anyway, for all you poor people who have never played this game or never witnessed this game's fantastic greatness, you should thank me for telling you this wonderful information about how it is so amazing and that you should play it, apart from the fact that if you haven't played it yet, then you are just a peasant and you don't truly know video games because you've never played Ocarina of Time. You don't deserve to call yourself a gamer. I have, therefore I do. So, first point, Ocarina of Time was released on the Nintendo 64. That means it's old. So there you go. Old games are always better than new games, so, take that, new games. You think you're good? Skyward Sword? Twilight Princess? More like, I wish I was Ocarina of Time games, because that's what you are, let's face it. So, you know, a lot of people like to compare it and say that Final Fantasy VII was better, but, I mean, let's be deadly serious here. Final Fantasy VII, Cloud, Sephiroth with his mummy issues, and giant sword and spiky hair and emos. You don't get that in Ocarina of Time because Ocarina of Time is just amazing, and you don't get that in truly, truly amazing games. But also, if you look back at Final Fantasy VII and you look at the graphics, like, they look like they're made out of Lego. You can't like a game that's old and looks like it's made out of Lego. What? Ocarina of Time has old graphics? Yeah, but, you know, it's vintage. It was what it was like at the time. You had to be there at the time, man. Again, Ocarina of Time had to be there at the time. You just don't appreciate true greatness, and that is what you should do if you want to call yourself a true gamer. So, let's actually start talking about Ocarina of Time, because I could spend ages and ages just talking about how great it is without actually talking about it, because, you know, that's how games journalism works, and that's how reviews work, is that you just talk about how much hype it was, and all that lot, and it suffices, but it's not going to suffice here because it's just such a great game. So, you are a boy called Link, although you get to choose your own name, yes, so you can portray yourself onto the character. You can feel as he feels, because that character is you. So, everything that character does, everything he says, everything he experiences, it's you who's experiencing it. Whoa! Isn't that amazing? You know that time where you jump off a cliff and he goes, ah! Or that time where he swings his sword and he goes, ah! That's you doing that. Just think about that for a second. So he gets sent to the Great Deku Tree, and the Great Deku Tree, I mean, again, it's called the Great Deku Tree because it's a great game. Obviously, I mean, the clues is just obvious. Come on, people, open your eyes to the truth. And you get a shield and a sword, and you go through all these fantastic dungeons with amazingly laid out puzzles. You know, there's some puzzles where there's a locked door and you have to find out how to open the door, and it's just, I mean, just sit back and think about that for a second. A locked door that is locked at the moment, but you can make not locked in the future. This is pure genius we're talking about here, and sometimes you unlock the door by shooting an eyeball that's above the door. Think about the metaphors that are being said here. An eyeball lets you see, so when you shoot the eyeball, it stops seeing you so that you can sneak past and get through the door. Also, you could say that it's a metaphor for how you gain sight. You shoot at the eyeball, you steal its power, so that you can then go through the door and see what's on the other side. You know, metaphors like this don't come cheap, and they're just... I cannot emphasize enough how much metaphors matter in games. But you've got these dungeons, and inside the dungeons you get items, which is a total paradigm shift of how you play the game. One dungeon, you get a bow and arrow. Guess what that means? You're going to have to beat the boss with the bow and arrow. Bet you never saw that coming. I mean, it's not like the slingshot that you've had to use in the past. It's totally different because the bow and arrow you can only use as an adult, and that goes off into another whole segment about how the game affects time and everything, and I'll get to that soon, but at the moment we're talking about the fantastic nature of the dungeons, though there is one dungeon that is terrible, that is the worst, that is the bane of everyone's existence, and that is the Water Temple. Of course, you have to hate the Water Temple because, duh, too much water. I mean, if IGN can say that about Pokemon and it's legit, obviously it's legit here as well, too much water. Although sometimes you make the water go up and down. My favourite part's the way you make the water go down because that means less water, but more water is bad. But you have to go through rooms and think about the way that the water's going and all that, and it's like, yeah, it's too confusing, but that doesn't stop the game from being the best game of all time. No. The game is the best game of all time because, well, of the reasons I'm stating here. There are also towns, which is what makes this game an RPG, because as we all know, the RPGs are all about towns and people and the adventure and everything, and so obviously that's what makes it an RPG, and getting heart pieces and getting new equipment is exactly the same as leveling up. So it's an RPG. Now, some games like to pretend to be RPGs, but they're not really. They only have RPG elements. For example, Heavy Rain. Heavy Rain isn't an RPG, but it has the element of RPGs that you go around places and talk to people. So it has an element of RPG, but not a true, strong RPG like The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, which is not only the best RPG ever made, but the best game ever made. I can't emphasize it enough. And so you do go to all these different towns, and sometimes the people ask you favours and they send you on quests. I mean, come on, you know, Skyrim thinks it was all that with giving you quests, but let's go back here. Ocarina of Time, people asked you to do things and you went and did those things then, so obviously this game did it first, therefore it's better. I mean, we've established that it's old, and it being old makes it good, but not too old like those stupid Nintendo games and those Super Nintendo games with like 8-bit and 16-bit. No, this is a true classic here, folks. So these people ask you to do things, and you know, you go through all these dungeons and you solve puzzles, and also here's another kicker for you. You fight enemies. How do you do this? By holding down a button to lock onto them, and then waiting until they're viable to attack. It's so exciting. The thrill of, I wonder when they will put down their shield so that I can press the button to attack them. The excitement of, let's hold down left and right as this enemy holds up their shield. And the whole time element, which I'm going to go into now, which is obviously like the best part of this game because, you know, it means things change, because there's a part where you are Link, or whatever you decide to call your character, because remember, it's you. You are the protagonist. You are the hero. And there's a point where something happens and then you are in the future and things are different. People who were young before are now older. I mean, come on. The passage of time doesn't just do these things alone. You need the power of time travel for these things to happen. And places are different. Like a place that was once a happy market where you could go into a room and buy things or do a mini game, it's now full of zombies. Whoa, a metaphor for how the future is bleak and everything has changed in the future and oh dear, we must fix it. And it's such a good metaphor for something, and it's the best game of all time. And when you're an adult, you go through other dungeons and you get new items and stuff that you can use to fight bigger bosses and bigger enemies. And if we're going to talk about music, we have to talk about music in The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, because Gerudo Valley, man, oh, the music is so good. You don't get music like that in any other game, because best game of all time, best music of all time. I'm just so awestruck by this game, and if you've played it, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and if you haven't played it, then you need to play it, but just bear in mind that because you didn't play it when it first came out, you truly won't understand it as fully as I do, and as the true gamers do, so you'll be a bit less of a gaming peasant, but at least you'll be, at least you'll be a peasant with dignity because you played Ocarina of Time, the best game of all time, and most importantly, better than Final Fantasy VII, because it's so good. Anyway, thank you for listening, all you fellow Zelda fans, those who know the truth about the ultimate, true, best game of all time ever in the world. And to everyone else, play it now. Play it right now. Stop what you're doing and just play it now. I don't care if you're listening to this whilst on a roller coaster. I don't care if you're listening to this whilst on a roller coaster. Stop right now and play this game. I'll see you all next time, folks.